Because the interesting thing is the kind of AI that we're doing, it's not primarily about programmers. 2/3 of our staff are actually non-programmers. I invented a term, I call them AI psychologists, that understand the brain of the AI, basically. AI psychologists, and their background is linguistics and cognitive psychology. For 5 years, we basically just were in development mode to make the system more capable and smarter. I'm happy now to launch the second generation of our intelligence engine in the marketplace. I'm Peter Voss. I'm founder and CEO and chief scientist of AIGO.ai.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries who share in the critical moments of what it takes to change an industry and build and lead a team that has your back. I'm your host, Noah Lappart, and today how Peter Voss decided to make software smarter by creating and improving its general intelligence. All this and more on Code Story. Peter Voss fell in love with software after starting a hardware design company. He moved to America 25 years ago and rapidly connected with interesting people, leaders in the field of nanotechnology, AI, longevity, futurism. In fact, he got very involved with futurism, following tech that could repair damage in your body and truly conquer aging. His target is to live long enough to take benefit from these life-extending technologies. So he practices calorie restriction and is exploring cryonics. For fun, he rides motorcycles, specifically his 1000cc BMW racing bike. But not too long ago, he found himself struck by how dumb software is, or better put, how narrow. So his mission for the last 25 years has been to make software smarter. This led him to dig into the current definitions for what is knowledge and our relationship with psychology, to deeply understand cognition and intelligence, so he could understand what we know. He came up with a design for an AI centering around the phrase AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. This is the creation story of AIGO.
Basically, my mission has been really for the last 25 years to see how can we make software more intelligent. So I took 5 years off to study all different aspects of intelligence, natural and artificial, starting with even philosophy, epistemology. What is knowledge? How do we know anything? What is our relationship to reality? How can we be certain of things? How do we learn? And then cognitive psychology. How do children learn? What do IQ tests measure? Are they meaningful? How does our intelligence differ from animal intelligence? So really trying to deeply understand cognition and intelligence in order to be able to figure out how we can build artificial intelligence. Obviously studied what other people had done in AI over the decades. So during that 5-year period, I came up with a design for an AI. And one of the fundamental insights was that what currently is being done in the field of AI is really narrow AI. It's basically lost its way from the original intent of when the term artificial intelligence was coined 60 years ago, where the idea was, can we build a thinking machine, a machine that can think and learn and reason the way humans do? And that, of course, turned out to be really, really hard. So over the decades, that dream has basically been abandoned, and what the field of AI has done is to build narrow applications, like a chess playing machine or traffic optimization or container optimization or medical diagnosis or whatever. But it's really external intelligence that you're taking the programmer's intelligence or the data scientist's intelligence and turning that into code or turning it into a model. The intelligence doesn't reside in the software. The intelligence is really external. A human basically figures out how to solve the problem and then builds code. And my insight was we need to get away from that and get back to the original intent to have a machine that has the intelligence internally that can learn and reason and learn new tasks by experimenting, by interacting with the world, by thinking about things, and so on. So in 2001, I got together with a few other people, in fact, 2 other people, and we coined the term artificial general intelligence, AGI, to sort of signify that move, to building thinking machines again, because we felt that technology had now advanced, hardware and software technology advanced to a point where we could actually go back to pursuing that original dream of AI. And that's really what my company AIGO AI is about, and our product AIGO is about, which is the first stages of actually building an artificial general intelligence. I'm hesitant to call our current product AGI. It's really proto-AGI, but the principles on which it's designed are inherently designed to be able to scale and improve by learning and adding reasoning and so on.
This episode is sponsored by Vanta. You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. And obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors. But they take time and energy pulling you away from building and shipping. And that's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups like yours get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. How, you ask? Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. And the platform connects you with trusted VCSOs to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. Join over 8,000 companies, including many Y Combinator and Techstars startups who trust Vanta. Simplify compliance and get $1,000 off at vanta.com/codestory. That's VANTA.com/codestory. Very interesting. Tell me about the first product, so the MVP. How did you bring it to life? What sort of tools did you use, and what sort of decisions and trade-offs did you have to make to bring it to life?
I've actually found C# to be a fantastic language to develop in. Been using it for 20 years now, and it just keeps improving. So I'm very happy with that framework for what we're doing. The term MVP, I actually dislike the idea somewhat of how much VCs and funders always talk about, how quickly can you bring a product to the market and so on. And it seems to be more speed than quality that the focus, how quickly can we see that you sign up a bunch of people that use it, and then maybe we can sell your company to Google or Microsoft or something. Whereas I think quality products really require a lot of thought and development. Obviously I'm generalizing somewhat. The easy stuff, lots of people do. It's, the hard stuff that really takes a bigger investment and bigger foresight. That's much harder. And it's not really sort of a quick, how quickly can we get something to market? 2001, I started my first AI company and hired about 12 people. And for 5 years, we were in R&D mode, basically turning the theory, the ideas that I had into initial prototypes. And over that 5-6 year period, we actually developed a cognitive engine that we were then that was powerful enough to be able to commercialize it. And then 2008, I launched the first company called Smart Action. And what Smart Action does is uses that engine in call center automation to give you a better experience. Everybody hates these things when you call into a company and you talk to a computer and, it's just a frustrating experience. So we elevated that very significantly in that it remembers what you said earlier in the conversation. You can speak in natural language and so on. So that was the first commercialization after many years of development. And Smart Action is quite successful. But the trade-offs that are made was that once you start a commercial company, and Smart Action is a SaaS model, so at that time, cloud services weren't really robust enough and accepted enough, so we had to build our own data centers. Basically, all of our energy went into building the infrastructure, robust infrastructure, with redundancy, reliability, security, and all of that. And it sucked all of the sort of energy and resources were sucked into that. And we didn't actually have the ability to continue increasing increasing the IQ of the system because it was already much better than the competitors. So the commercial pressure was basically our infrastructure now has to compete with the big boys. And that was a bit frustrating. So after about 5 years, I exited the company to start AIGO.ai to again be able to focus on cranking up the IQ. And so again, I hired a new team of about 12 people. And for 5 years, we basically just were in development mode to make the system more capable and smarter. And last year, we got to a point where I said, okay, I'm happy now to launch the second generation of our intelligence engine in the marketplace. And this is what AIGO.ai does.
So you did some research. You're basically in R&D mode for 5 years. What was the trigger to say that it was good enough?
They obviously competing pressures. On the one hand, I had enough money to do this for 5 years and pay staff from my previous exit, but I couldn't afford to have a bigger team. So there was a constraint. I mean, if I'd been able to hire more people, the R&D phase would have been a bit shorter. So on the one hand, it was, yes, this is really much more capable than anything out there competitors are offering, and versus also the increasing pressure of, okay, we need to start making some money.
So then, so you're working on it for 5 years, and that's the time frame you had set out. Tell me about how you progressed the product through those 5 years. How did it grow and evolve in a little more detail?
The second generation, I started with a new team, so probably took a year or two to actually get the right team together, to get them trained up. Because the interesting thing is the kind of AI that we're doing, it's not actually primarily about programmers. 2/3 of our staff are actually non-programmers. I invented a term, I call them AI psychologists, that understand the brain of the AI, basically. AI psychologists, and their background is linguistics and cognitive psychology. So it was, basically training people on some completely new science technology. That inherently took a while. And then it was a matter of everything we'd learned in the previous 10 years or so to basically rebuild the system, to, rewrite all of the systems, but with what we'd learned. And, and that process just took 2 or 3 years to incorporate all the new ideas, the improvements we had. Once we had that working, then it was, okay, what additional features can we put in? And they're on a scale of cognitive abilities. The most fundamental are that you can understand natural language for our product, because we're natural language focused. So was being able to understand a very wide range of conversations and utterances and to be able to respond correctly to them. But then having memory of, what people said earlier, whether it's a few sentences ago or last week or last month or last year, to be able to have that memory and to be able to use it. And this is a huge shortcoming of all of the current chatbots, like Siri and Alexa and all of the commercial chatbots from the big companies. They have no memory. They don't remember what you said 2 sentences ago. The second thing is they don't have deep understanding. They don't have deep parsing. So they're just pattern matching. So literally, if you say, I hate Uber, don't ever give me Uber again, it'll still trigger the Uber app, because it's just, okay, sounds like you want Uber. That's kind of the closest match. And they can't learn interactively. If you say something as simple, I'm going on holiday to Oregon next week, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They cannot learn interactively, which is actually a really, really severe limitation. They simply cannot learn something new interactively unless they were very specifically programmed to look for some key phrase or key word that they can learn. So it's basically getting those cognitive abilities working properly in an integrated way, and to do it in a commercially viable way that, your responses, that the system is responsive within sub-second, basically, has sub-second response time. So there was some magic we had to do on the engineering to get that all to work. And so it was basically just building a bigger and bigger set of tasks and challenges and tests that we generated ourselves, that we set ourselves, and then basically solving those problems, iterating. And then about 2 years ago, I again got to a point where I said, okay, I think we're just about ready to commercialize this now. And then we started looking at, what the marketplace is, what people are looking for, what competitors are offering. and start talking to different customers, different industries. And then last year, we actually launched the product commercially.
This episode is sponsored by Kinsta. Between juggling client meetings, managing your website, and keeping up with everyday tasks, who has the time to stress out about website security? Well, with Kinsta, the technical stuff is taken care of, so you can focus on what you do best. Kinsta provides managed hosting for WordPress, offering lightning-fast load times, top-tier security, and unmatched human-only customer support. Whether you're a business owner, web developer, or running a digital agency, Kinsta makes managing your website easy and efficient. Kinsta provides enterprise-grade security, being one of the few hosting providers for WordPress with SOC 2 and other certifications, guaranteeing the highest level of security for your website. Thanks to their unlimited free expert-led migrations, Kinsta ensures a smooth transition for you from other hosting providers. Customers have reported 200% faster load times post-migration to their platform. What I find cool about Kinsta is their fast and reliable customer service and premium features that are included at no extra cost. Ready to experience Kinsta's hosting for yourself? Get your first month free when you sign up at kinsta.com today. That's KINSTA.com. I'm interested in how you built your roadmap because it sounds like, so you said 2 years ago you decided, okay, it's ready to be commercialized. And then during that 3-year span, you're working on the product, you're adding features. But how are you determining, okay, what's the most important feature to put in first over, later? And how are you determining that now that you've commercialized the product and it's out in the world?
It's actually a very interesting point and quite a tricky one, because when you're working in isolation, not commercially driven, but you're working really more like an R&D team or development team, you're setting your own tasks of, what problems do you want to solve? What are you going to be working on? In the first iteration, the first company, that was, very much uncharted territory for me. So I had to kind of guess, well, what are the general capabilities that you expect in a conversation? So it was, again, we're getting back to the AGI, artificial general intelligence. What are general capabilities you expect an intelligent agent to have when you have a conversation? But when the rubber hits the road, when you actually commercialize, you find that quite a few of the assumptions that you've made, are wrong. Some of the things you thought were important aren't, and things that you didn't think were important are. So that helped a lot now in the second generation in having that commercial experience and already knowing, well, what do you really need when you have a product versus what do you sort of theoretically need or generally need to build an intelligent system? That converges to a point where basically the development roadmap that we have from a theoretical point of view and the development roadmap we have from a customer need or market need, they basically converge. And now that we, fully commercial, obviously a lot of our development is driven by customer requirements, specifically where to put our focus.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit from the product and the roadmap to your team. So how did you build your team? And some of it sounds like it may have been in historical relationships, but what did you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join your team?
I look primarily for having the ability, the sort of cognitive ability, the intelligence, to be able to really understand what we're trying to do. That is sort of a fundamental point. Experience in the field in AI or so is almost a negative factor, because anybody who's worked in the field of AI for any significant period of time will be so entrenched in the narrow AI domain that they have to unlearn so much. So I actually prefer to get people who haven't worked in AI. And one of the main criteria has always been people that are really excited about what we're doing, to take artificial intelligence to the next level. The team, I have an awesome team now. Most of the people on the team have been with us 4 years or more. They really wouldn't want to do anything else. It'd be boring for them to work on narrow AI or something else. It really requires a lot of persistence. What we're doing is really, really difficult, and a lot of naysayers, and whether it's VCs or potential customers or whatever, saying, well, hey, you guys aren't doing deep learning, you're not doing machine learning, what everybody else is doing. So having a team that really believes and understands our approach, that's really of primary importance.
I really like that. I really like that you're looking for people that maybe don't have the experience, and perhaps what comes out of that is other perspectives and looking in different areas coming into the field of AI and being able to solve problems a little bit differently.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it kind of requires that. Obviously, we have some people who have worked in AI and bring that perspective as well. And then in terms of academic credentials, well, my own background is I actually had to start working at 16. I didn't finish high school. So my own perspective is that, you can do okay without that. So I appreciate both types of kind of background.
So let's switch back to the product. So you built the product for 3 years, started to go through the commercialization process for a couple, and now it's out in the wild. Throughout that time period, either early days development or development now, how did you approach scalability? How did you factor in that into the early days and into now, or is it something that you're just now getting to the point where you have to think about it?
It's a mix of both. The inherent scalability of our architecture is actually very, very good. And our current product, we don't offer this as a SaaS service, so we don't have to worry about creating that SaaS infrastructure. We actually deploy it behind our customer's firewall. So it's basically, we give them a copy of the brain as an image, essentially, and help them integrate it into their existing infrastructure. Nowadays, we're dealing with large companies exclusively at the moment. So all of the large companies are using cloud services. So we basically help them integrate it into their infrastructure and deploy it within their cloud. So that eliminates a lot of the scalability, security, redundancy issues. They're already taken care of, which makes this a lot easier than in the first generation where we had to build our own data center. Our architecture inherently is that each conversation is handled by a separate process, and each customer relationship or end user that's interacting with the system, again, is a separate unit. So you can basically spin up millions of these in the cloud. So that part of the scalability is actually much easier now with the technology available and the approach we've taken, the sort of non-SaaS approach. But yes, there is an awful lot of work to be done to deal with the scalability aspects of instrumentation, reporting, and all of that to, if you want to service 1 million customers or 10 million customers, your reporting and databases and all of that have to be geared up for that. You have to think that through and have the right tools to be able to analyze things and so on. And that's something we now are putting a lot of effort into, and we hadn't really done that before. We said, well, once we go commercial, our focus will shift onto that, and that's exactly what's happening now.
That makes sense. But do I understand right? So your solution is an on-premise solution?
Yeah, you could call it on-prem, but of course on-prem in the customer's cloud from a practical point of view. Yes, exactly.
Okay, but in the customer's cloud. That's interesting. That's really an interesting approach. I really like that.
I think it's the future of software for large companies. Large companies don't actually like using SaaS services because you have all of these potential security holes and things. They'd much rather deploy the technology behind their firewall. And so I think that turned out to be a really good decision. This, of course, will only work for companies, at a certain level, that have their own sort of infrastructure and support teams.
So as you step out on the balcony and look across all you've built with AIGO, what are you most proud of?
Just the level of intelligence that we've achieved. I'm proud of the perseverance, the vision that I had 20 years ago, really, of trying to build real intelligence, real AI. and pursuing that, against sort of against all odds in a way, because people say, well, no, this is impossible what you're doing, using wrong approach, and we really are going against the grain here of what other people are doing in AI. So seeing the level of intelligence that we've achieved in our system, and after all of these years and the commercial experience that we have, being even more confident now that we're on the right track to get closer and closer to human intelligence and to provide the kind of intelligence you really want from AI, that feels pretty good.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made, and how did you and your team respond to it?
I think the biggest mistake I made in Smart Action, in my first commercial company, AI company, was not finding the right partners, key staff in the company, and compromising on that. Also, I was relatively new in America at the time, so I didn't have the network and the contacts to find the right people. I should have put more effort into finding the right core team in the company. I struggled with that. We didn't really have the top management. The core management team was never strong enough. It was sort of largely on my own shoulders. That makes it very hard to scale the company. Over time, we did manage to get there, but it took much longer than it should have. How the staff responded to that, I must say I've always been really happy about people working for me or working with me on the project. So even though we lacked severely in sales and marketing, in particular, the team was always behind. The implementation team and development team were always very supportive and sort of living with the limitations. And if you don't have strong sales and marketing, you end up taking on customers that are not very profitable and that are a lot of trouble, basically. So you really want to have a strong marketing person, sales marketing team to be able to get you the right customers.
So let's switch to you, Peter. Name a CEO, CTO, architect, really any person. Name a person that you look up to and why.
Over the years, I can't say that over the decades that there is sort of one person. It's really many different people. But I must say, in the last few years, I'm really in awe of what Elon Musk is doing. I mean, it's just amazing what he has achieved in so many areas by thinking outside of the box, and then the confidence to be able to pursue that. That's amazing. And yes, I mean, he obviously has some quirks, but that is something I'd wish to emulate, to be able to be even bolder and stepping into new areas and doing new things. Of course, it helps to also have a few tens of millions or hundreds of millions to pursue your wild ideas,
Sure, that certainly does help. So if you could go back to the beginning of AIGO, what would you do differently, or where would you consider taking a different approach?
The thing that springs to mind is really the thing you asked me about, the mistake is getting the right team. Ideally, if you can, over the years, I've had some of my business, I've had really good partners, were partners in the business, had, significant shareholding and so on. That is ideal, but of course, they have to be the right partners, otherwise it can be very detrimental to a business. But whether they're partners in the business or key employees, having a strong core team, I think that's probably the biggest thing I would do differently, is to try much harder to get that right team together, because that allows you to scale. You have to be able to rely on key people in your company to be able to delegate.
So what does the future look like for AIGO, the product, and for your team?
That's actually very easy, very clear. We have just such an enormous opportunity. Everybody wants our product. And of course, big companies are reluctant to deal with a small company at the moment. We are 16 people. We are right now we're hiring aggressively, and we're very rapidly growing. The future really is to scale the company up as quickly as we can without screwing up too badly. You do need to be on that borderline. Again, Elon Musk, if you've got to fail early and often. But of course, if you have customers, you don't want to fail too much. So your failures should be hopefully hidden, or your customers should be protected from your failures. But is basically to continue innovating aggressively. We know what we need to do. We're really no longer in an R&D phase. We don't really need to do much additional research. It's more development. If I had a few hundred people now, I would know exactly what parts of our intelligence engine they could work on. At the moment, we concentrating on text input, text conversations, speech to upgrade that to speech conversations is next on the roadmap. But there are so many opportunities. Basically, we've spoken to automotive companies who want real intelligence in their car, so that you can actually talk to the car and get things done. Just one opportunity. Gaming companies to have it as a gaming coach. In medical applications, for a personal assistant to help you manage diabetes, for example, or any number of other medical conditions. Then we have applications for salespeople where you want an assistant to help you manage Salesforce. Salespeople hate using Salesforce and they don't tend to use it. But if they had an AIGO they can just say, tell me about my next appointment, what are his hobbies, or does he have any kids, or what product was he interested in? When you're done with your sales call, you can say to AIGO, set this to high priority, remind me next Tuesday to follow up, send them brochure X and let my boss know what's going on. There are just such a myriad of applications for having an intelligent assistant, conversational assistant, and it's basically how quickly can we scale up the company to meet that demand and do it well, and at the same time to crank up the IQ of the system, to continually make the system smarter and smarter. At the moment, common sense knowledge, common sense reasoning is actually very, very hard. As people, even a 3-year-old child has so much common sense knowledge already by interacting with the world and interacting with other people. It's very difficult to replicate that in AI. And that's, one of the challenges. So yeah, we have a very clear roadmap of what we want to do, and a very, very significant demand for the kind of AI that we have.
So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to you, to the world. What advice would you give that person, having gone down this road a few times?
I've thought about that question, and in a way, in business, there really isn't sort of a soundbite or fortune cookie type thing that, works for everyone, because realistically, I'd listen to a story and say, okay, what is it that's going to make the biggest difference? So I don't think I can give a generic answer to it, because there are different things holding back different projects. The one piece of advice that I do give people, but this is not exactly the scenario you're describing here, is I started my first business at 25. I wish I'd started it many years earlier, because if you are interested in being an entrepreneur, having the actual experience doing it, even if you do it while you're at school still and start something, it's just invaluable. They're just stuff you have to actually do. You have to actually experience it and do it yourself. So the sooner you can start on that and gain some experience, I think the better. But as far as the scenario you painted, I'd have to listen to his particular story to give advice of whether he should go to VCs or he should avoid VCs like the plague, or whether he should get a partner, or whether he needs to do more work on the technology, or whether he should get patent protection or not, or they're really different things.
That makes sense. Well, Peter, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the product creation story of AIGO.
Well, thanks for having me. This was fun. Thank you.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. Support the show on patreon.com/codestory for just $5 to $10 a month. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.